yeah, you're ready whenever you are.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year, I think, hopefully. Um, so this is a talk about the current project that I have done as a collaboration with Robert Good at Cable Depot Gallery, and it's called Breaking. And what you see behind me is a 360 still photograph, which can be used then by, I think Facebook turns it immediately into a 360 image. But I thought it was quite a nice image to have behind me rather than the clutter of the room, and give you something to look at beyond me. I'm going to just give a short backstory of how I got to where I am now regarding this exhibition, because I think it just puts it into a little bit of context. I will try and do the same for Robert, but obviously my knowledge of Robert's work is much less, and therefore if Robert wants to interject at that point, then feel free. Okay, so what you see on screen, for those of you mature enough, are mobile phones from an era when they sort of became uber popular, or first became uber popular in the 90s and the early noughties. And I wanted to make a series of works that seemed to respond to the obsession with object design, especially in relationship to the idea of communications, and to try and sort of for a moment to arrest this sort of idea of hyper consumerism through representation. There's a slogan by Lord Mountbatten during World War II where he said, "If it's working, it's obsolete." And I think this slogan, amongst other things, is a call to arms for capitalism. And in a way, I wanted to try and arrest that in some way through the making works that kind of slowed down the process of change, or arrested the process of change. And the objects I chose were largely both ubiquitous but kind of indifferent, in the sense that everybody had one of, well, most people had one of these phones that you see up on screen at the moment. And they are kind of also emotionally charged, with the potential narratives that they enabled, in addition to the design fetish of consumerism. So they personified this idea of built-in obsolescence. And this is what why is that? Excuse me, sorry, let me try this. Okay, there we go. So this is one of the first things that I did in response to that, which is actually, they're not cast in concrete, they're actually covered, but they're kind of fossilized and then presented in a kind of museumized form. And this is a series from 2002, and then this series was from 2004. And this process, through this process, the object is kind of hollowed out into a formless vessel, and then reborn as narrative loss. Ironically, this process seemed to come to an end with the smartphone, at which point the developments in design were mostly in software rather than hardware. So the actual idea of design fetish sort of strangely came to an end in a way with the smartphone. So I then moved on to dealing with the idea of technology in relationship to myth and sci-fi, with its implied alien presence and a sense of dislocation. And so the next exhibition in that regard is this one, which is called Hum, which is at Angus Hughes Gallery. And this is 2014. And here I wanted to try and locate my practice into an imagined flow of time and place, rather than the arresting of the immediacy of the present. And so I created fabricated memories and used sculptural prop as spectacle, And it evoked this kind of idea of unspecified forces, all with the suggestion of theatrical displacement. But the main reason that I'm showing this image is because it was the first use that I did of wall text, which you can see there. I don't know how readable it is there. And it's deliberately, in a way, barely readable through its lack of punctuation. So it has this kind of constant punching in the face quality of information or of assault. It's like a kind of linguistic assault. And it consisted of extracts from David Icke's book, The Biggest Secret, spliced with my own spam box. And what you get from both is a sort of paranoid and unspecified surveillance. What I also kind of found interesting, is in particular with my spam box, was certain narratives were becoming visible to me. Not just the scams from Nigeria and the kind of apparent need I have for Viagra and Asian babes simultaneously, but what emerges is an economy of rage, of loneliness and fear. And it's that kind of ever-changing array of human insecurities that really kind of interested me here. It was a very sort of human, it's a very human sort of a fault in a way that's made visible in spam. Conspiracy theories like Icke were becoming ever more prevalent, combining religious moral tropes such as suffering and redemption with sci-fi iconography such as lizards and aliens. So I began to cut and paste and splice these different elements together along with quotes from my Facebook feed. Facebook offered a slightly different flavor. It was more private, it was singular, and it was a kind of, it was more individual commentaries and anecdotes, more human in essence. So from these sources came a rich vein of material with which to generate narratives that appeared then as stories. And the next slide I'm going to show you is this one. Oh, sorry, that's the close-up of the text in Hum. I won't leave it up there for you to read. It'll give you a headache. So this was the next show that where I was using text and developing these ideas further. This was at Art House in 2016. And this was called, this is the second evening I see 13 rabbits on the lawn. And one of the things I think happens is that I think subject matter finds you as much as you go out searching for subject matter. It kind of resonates with something deep inside, it agitates anxieties and pleasures. And I think in the case of text, I was looking for a way of addressing my dyslexia, which has always given me a kind of fraught relationship to language. For me, words have always been devious and untrustworthy. They're always up to no good and out to trip you up. And it's probably why I'm kind of depending on reading text now rather than trusting myself to kind of ad lib. But with the cut and paste appropriation, my responsibility to language and authorship seemed deferred. It allowed a degree of freedom and it offered a space to occupy. So here I tried to take that literally. I used the text almost architecturally as physical form as much as a form of language. The text itself was intended as quixotic lightning rods of emotion, embedded in the form of faux philosophical aphorisms. And after I'd done these two installations, I started to get interested in film and started to think about the idea of text as a way of driving the narrative of film. And the first of these that I did was a film called Urgent Sleep Better, which is a sort of strange sci-fi type indulgence. And I spliced the text for that into a form of conversation or implied conversation. In effect, actually it was as much two voices speaking across each other as it was speaking to each other. But there was definitely a sense that I tried to structure two voices that were driving the film along. And this is the film, from this film is the edit that I took and then expanded upon and developed for the film that's included in the exhibition, Breaking. So let's see what okay, so I'll leave that up for a minute. So the film in Breaking, I'll talk a little bit about that and then I'm going to show it. The title is Addicted to ECT, which is a rather tabloid grabbing headline. Most people, I think, would regard being addicted to ECT as a rather absurd notion. But actually, strangely enough, it was an actual phenomenon where people, or some people, did get addicted to the euphoric high of having a session of ECT. So that it did actually exist, and it seemed to fit quite nicely with what the film was about, and actually I think also to some extent what the exhibition is about. I'm assuming everybody knows what ECT is, electric shock therapy, which is a pretty brutal way of dealing with clinical depression in the 50s and 60s, and I think it's still used now, which is quite surprising. So the sense of urgency and addiction and outrage that runs through the dialogue is in both the film and the exhibition. The film's narrative here in the exhibition is also spliced with another source, and that was Heaven's Gate religious cult. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Heaven's Gate religious cult, it came into being in the late 70s in California, not surprisingly, but it reached its end game with the arrival of the Hale-Bopp comet in 1996. What they believed was that in the tail of the comet was a UFO, and that they were destined to ride up to the UFO and fly off into a spiritual, purer plane. But of course, the only way they could get there was to commit suicide and leave their bodies behind and their spirits to do this. So 39 of them committed group suicide, all dressed up in their purple robes. So it was quite a sort of extreme event, but of course it's an event that has kind of a lineage that goes back into religious times and a sort of extreme puritanical religious sects historically. But one of the reasons why I chose it is that their writing, it has a strange poetic mix of Old Testament fundamentalism and New Age hippiedom that sits kind of quite interestingly, and I found rather strangely appealing, just in terms of its use of language and imagery. And for that, I kind of just stole it to kind of offer this sort of poetic otherness within the paranoia of the text. So the film is set up, as I said, as a conversation, and it's between a male voice and a female voice. Both are computerized, which creates an uncanny dissonance in relation to the artificial. The film itself is a hypnotic view out of a window, traveling past the private spaces of back gardens, which just roll past the frame. It's tinted red to highlight its anxiety level. It's a kind of signifier that I borrowed from 60s and 70s sort of cinema that often used that device to sort of create a sense of paranoia. And it also just formally contrasts with the electric green of the AstroTurf that is in the exhibition. Overlaid on the film as it progresses is a text by Robert from his collation of Google News headlines. And this text eventually fills the screen and so opens up a dialogue with the text on the walls in the exhibition. Hopefully all of this will become apparent as we come later on. I'll show you some images of the exhibition itself. But I'm going to play the film now. Susie, if it looks terrible, hold on, I've lost my cursor.
I'm sure it won't.
Wait a minute. Where's my... Just bear with me a sec. Somewhere my cursor's, my mouse has either died.
Do you want me to? I can request remote control, and I can.
Yeah, it's just, it's weird that it's I can't see the mouse anywhere on screen.
We can do the whole next slide.
Can you go to the next slide?
Yeah. Okay. I'll request remote. You'll have to give me access to it, and then I can.
Okay. That is so strange. I knew it was going too well.
That should. Have you given me access? Yeah. Oh, I can't do it either. I think maybe because your mouse has gone off. Has it gone off the? That's super weird.
It is, isn't it? Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed yourself and it was worth it. let me escape from this and see if it's
Yeah, maybe share the screen.
well, you know what? I think everything's just frozen. I can't escape from it either.
Well, it's frozen on an excellent piece. Let me see what I can do. I can probably stop your share.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, hold on. We're back.
Yeah, Robert's asking to be.
But I've got the wheel of death. That's the only thing.
1 second. Robert, I think Robert's got the backup, hasn't he? So he can.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say I have this myself, and for some reason PowerPoint seems to freeze sometimes when I do a Zoom presentation. I've got no idea why. The way I get out of it is if you get the wheel of death and you kind of close it down. Well, you have to close it down and start again, and then normally it will then just resume and you'll be okay.
Also,
it just seems to be a known problem with PowerPoint.
You mean close PowerPoint?
Say again?
You mean close PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay.
Force quit and then start it again.
Also,
Okay.
as a backup, you've got the PDF, haven't you?
Yeah, if you want me to fire up my copy, I can do so.
Just bear with me. I'll just do what you just suggested and see what happens. Talk amongst yourselves. On mute.
Oh yeah, everyone's muted. I can unmute. You can just admire your virtual backgrounds that may or may not be virtual.
Yeah, I live in this space.
And see what can be deciphered. It's quite hard to read.
Okay, I think we're good. Hold on a sec. Whoa. Okay. Can you still hear me and see me?
I can still see you, I can still hear you, but can't see you.
Okay. Ah, no, it's just died again. Oh no. Wait. Okay, so Susie, if it's really jumpy, can you let me know?
Yeah. But we
Okay.
can't see. I can't see your screen share yet.
Oh, is that what's got? Sorry, wait a minute. Do I need to go back to screen share?
Yeah.
Can you see it now?
No.
Okay, hold on a sec.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not full screen yet though. It's just you've got the slides down the side.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's a shame. I was looking forward to doing the next slide, please. I always want to see it together whenever I see the PM's briefing.
Okay. So if it's crap, just let me know. Otherwise, it's 7 minutes, the film.
Brilliant. Thanks.
I've just lost it again. Ay, 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 what's going on? Sorry. Let me start it while it's small and maybe we'll get more joy that way. Okay. Doesn't want to do it big, does it?
No, I think maybe just do it in the view.
Okay.
Worked last night when we did the trial, didn't it? So
Yeah.
that's great though, I think. Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Criminal Record Archives. I moved into a male body for our task among humans.
No one wants to go out on a Monday.
Eat this and you won't have to diet again.
Why do people have to sleep?
Kitchen makeover. We brought to Earth with us a crew of students at varying stages of metamorphic transition.
I will go with myself.
Start communicating change of plan.
I don't get it.
Video proof. Reports have emerged.
I wonder if the Argentinian bartender will call.
Premium card pre-approved.
Where are you?
Alert. Breaking news.
Fuck, what just happened?
New and chewable. Understandably shocked.
Who were those people in the flat I just let out?
Left behind his body in the next level. For free.
I am so tired.
Approval department. We suspect that many of us arrived in a staged spacecraft crashes.
I must take a nap.
The metamorphic birth into the level above human.
I feel ugly.
This incarnation process is difficult.
Nobody seems to understand.
Next level representative. Background check.
Lots of new clothes waiting in the shops.
Communicate for free. Are you online this weekend?
I want this.
Fraud alert. Blood sugar secrets. Shedding their human creature characteristics.
I am so happy I can't stop smiling.
Suspicious activity. New creatures. Paths that lead to decay. Review for free.
I have great taste.
Our little secret. The next evolutionary level. Long predated the incidents.
I'm going to get it.
Your separation from the world. You have a new notification.
I have a selfie.
Only representatives can mature with next level thinking. Wives that are willing. Negative space aliens.
Still in hospital.
Final reductions. The dilemma is we are here. You may qualify for a scholarship.
Laundry day.
Learn their tricks. Funds in hours.
He thought I was too much.
Most humans are hooked to humanity.
He says you are perfect.
Must have pics. Thoroughly briefed, overriding the mind.
He called me 10 times the other day.
Socially acceptable programs for returnees in forward motion. Digital Golf Academy.
I want that.
Even those who have fallen away are being given an opportunity. Your credit score just changed.
Time to make breakfast.
Suspicious activity. Government subsidized. Taking charge of their own assigned human bodies.
I am just too much.
Apparently clinically proven. It necessitates the abortion of the human mind.
I couldn't contain myself.
Please confirm address.
Who wants to come with me?
They burrow in bases underground.
Pisces are supposed to be beautiful.
Appear married but lonely. Participate in genetic manipulation.
You know who you are.
Sometimes traumatized. Special holidays.
I am never in control.
Hybridization with humans. Real cheating wives. Changing over their consciousness.
But you seem a bit mental.
Attachment removed.
I have never felt so insulted.
You have a new message.
He just didn't get me.
Our dilemma was multifaceted. His behavior was altering.
I look like a different person now.
Our discarded bodies were retrieved by the authorities.
Not even answer the phone.
Background check. Unknowingly serve the next level.
Today he's not answering.
Wives in your area. No makeup. Testosterone alert.
I did it for a friend.
Serious potential injuries.
You look the same.
Look younger. Without general anesthesia.
I never sleep.
Trading spacecraft technology for uninterrupted genetic experimentation. These chips set aside those bodies for us.
I get nothing done.
Potential terrorist.
My day is already getting better.
We began to get clear signals. Preparation for another beginning.
If you happen to be close, please stop by.
Luxury replica.
I have nowhere to stay.
Biological experimentation through abductions. Cindy is willing.
I am very clean and tidy.
Request approval. Technically advanced modes of travel.
I am an excellent cook.
Military benefits.
I'm just a little unwell.
The accurate perception available when our eye becomes single.
I don't take up much space.
The mind of adversarial space racers yields misinformation.
One new blue bikini and 2 sunglasses.
Pre-approved as seen on TV.
All I drink now is coffee.
Healthcare alert. Recalled events. Access denied. Insect-like eyes.
I need a holiday.
And then this text remains on screen long enough for you to read it, but I'm going to pause it because you can go to the website and do that, should you want to. So that was the film that's running in the space. Before I get to the exhibition itself, I just want to introduce Robert because this is a collaboration. And so far, we haven't really mentioned him, which is unfair. So I met Robert through an organization that he was running called ALL, which is Art, Language and Location. And he was doing these series of projects based on text. And as I was beginning to do these wall texts, I made contact with him. Actually, DJ, you were the person that I believe put us in, yes, you were, yes, put us in contact. So, so through DJ, I contacted Robert and did this piece in Anglia University in 2016. I'll see if I can make this go back to big. Let's see what happens. See if it survives. Okay, fingers crossed. And ALL were a program of exhibitions that Robert had devised around the idea of text as material, making exhibitions at the intersection of art, text and place. And these projects were expansive and took exhibitions beyond the gallery space into public spaces, adjacent streets, in this particular case, all around the university itself. Robert himself had been working with the idea of text for some time, and this is a piece of his, if it works yet, from 2010 called Sorted, which is a series of art books and art theory books arranged in order of size and color. There's a series of these images. And he'd been working around the idea of language and categorization and meaning for a while. He'd actually done a previous incarnation of Breaking, which became a book I think. Did that become a book, Robert? Is Robert there still? Maybe he's gone.
No, he's here. I'm not sure. I need to ask him to unmute so he can.
Okay.
There you go.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Do you want to say something about? Do you want to say something about this? Because in a way, I think it would be kind of fair to hear a little bit from your backstory to this point as well.
Well, that's very kind. I was purposefully kind of not wanting to interrupt your flow, because I'm very happy for you to speak on behalf of our project. I've been interested in text and language, and the migration of knowledge from books to the internet, and the way in which Google News and Google is our source. I mean, the difference between Encyclopedia Britannica, going to the library, taking out a book, and if the book isn't there, the knowledge isn't there, to this, the flip side, the digital environment where everything is available. We are overloaded with material, and that is anxiety inducing in a different way. And so Breaking was a first attempt to, I took every day for a year, I took all the headlines that Google gave me in Google News, and I just alphabetized them to remove any sense of chronology, just to turn it into almost like wallpaper, the backdrop to our lives, the way in which this constant chatter, the constant stream of information that we're being invited to process, and of course we can never keep up with it. I just wanted to externalize that in order to make it apparent and to try and turn it into an object that we could get some sort of distance on. And so that was what was behind doing the book and a little exhibition that supported the book itself. And so that was a year of Google News headlines.
Good, thanks. Well, so that was all going on unbeknown to me. And in a way, I can't remember the occasion where we sort of encountered each other's practice and realizing that it was very at least formally very similar, and our points of interest had quite a lot in common. But it became obvious that actually doing a collaboration was a way forward, because I think we were both working around similar themes and addressing them in a similar way. And so where I think what I think is kind of interesting is that although formally we were working in a similar way, I think we came to language from polar opposite positions. I think mine is inherently a much more antagonistic relationship to language, whereas I think yours is kind of more philosophical and a curiosity into its systems and structures. I don't know if that's fair, but that's how I read the way you kind of look at language a bit more. And I think Breaking, the exhibition, is a mix of this as much as anything else, actually, which is why I think it kind of works on more than just the level of interrogating clickbait. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the exhibition. And as you can see, the gallery walls are lined with Google News headlines, and they all begin with a what if question. So the one that bizarrely sticks in my head is up there at the top. What if Hillary never married Bill? I don't know what you're supposed to make of that kind of question, but anyway, but it has a mix of those and then things like what if something changes, which is a bit more kind of enigmatic. And it transforms the exhibition space into this claustrophobic and disorientating reverberation of claim and counterclaim. And then on the office desk is the screen on which the film is looped and played that I've just shown you. Although actually you can only see the film via the website, because if you look at it through the webcam cameras, you don't get the sound. And then the gallery floor, as you can see, is carpeted with AstroTurf. This was a substrate that was became a kind of substitute, replacing the grounding or our grounding in any real world with that of a fictional space. It privileges the artificial. But this is not a hyperspace, a sort of hyper reality space of online. Rather, it's overheated antechamber. It's a paranoid hybrid between a waiting room and an interrogation space. And the plants are a softening touch, a concession to the human, except of course here they're as fake as everything else. It's an idea of an augmented space rather than it actually being an augmented space. And it's a stage set that is deliberately reveals itself as such. So the next slide, you can see the entrance here, where its cohesion, if you like, breaks down. It's a kind of leakage of the construct where the real world outside sort of the clutter of the real world outside comes in. And in a way, the way I cut the grass there, I kind of was thinking into, although it was arbitrary, it's actually how the grass it was arrived when I laid it. That they sort of rather than trying to sort of make it neat and tidy and either do a diagonal or run it all the way to the end, so that it would fill that particular square of room. I kind of like the pixelization reference of that. It's as if the image is slowly crumbling at that point. Okay, where do I get to? Mediation, next slide. So this whole ensemble of the exhibition is then mediated through the process of viewing online. And this happened because the migration from the physical to the digital was forced on us through COVID. But it was an easy decision. It was a logical decision. In fact, actually, I think it made conceptual sense and extended the logic of the endeavor of the exhibition. And so now it can only be viewed online through the live feed cameras and the portals of the website. The installation exists, but it will never open to the public. And in a helix-like way, it returns back to its source. And this is the website. Basically, the exhibition is an assimilation of online forces: clickbait, spam, conspiracy theories, 24-hour news. So when viewed online, these systems of looking were constructed to represent something of the way we see or are seen under those conditions. In other words, the process of looking was also appropriated. However, the final process of mediation isn't but the banal voyeurism of the security camera. Thus, although the physicality of the site is returned to the virtual, it is not the heat of online source material of the exhibition, but to the familiarity of the website and the boredom of surveillance. So what I'm going to try and do is go to the website, but of course that could go wrong. There it is, just bear with me. Okay, is that visible to everyone? Good, okay. So the front page of the page is designed as a grid to give the impression or the effect of as if you, the viewer, was a security guard looking at a screen of various webcams. So it's this idea that the exhibition, but actually each of these portals is a different way through to looking at the exhibition. So I'm going to run through, I'm hoping all this works because okay, so camera one, so there we are. And I won't do it for all of them, but you can then click on that and make it big, hopefully. And it should be a live feed. but sometimes it doesn't work. Okay, there we go. So you get a live feed. I should say at this point that there's a day-night mode. So we're now into night mode. So I will show images of, I'll go back from the website onto the PowerPoint. So what we're looking at now is live. So if a mouse runs across the screen, it is happening in real time. 2 of the 3 cameras go to black and white at night, ghostly pixels. Talked about this quite a lot. That we wanted to mark its passage in time, if you like, rather than just having it the same 24/7, because then it would be a non space and a non-place in non-time, as it were. So to mark the passing of time seemed to be something important. And we decided to go with traditional gallery time. So it's the daylight hours are 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So then we go back and we have 3 different views. So I'll just briefly show you the other 2 views. This one, I believe, oh no, this one's black and white too. They have different quality along. And then this one I think is in color. If it's working. So you get this sort of strange very pixelated quality hold on to its day mode. Okay, and then we have a 360. So the image that's behind me, when you kind of put it into Facebook or whatever program that will turn it into a 3D image, do this. I'll make this big so you get a sense of it. So here you get a kind of sense of the entrance and the kind of stage set quality of it, and you get a sense of, you know, there's one camera up there. Sorry, there's another camera there. So you can work out how the whole thing's constructed from this, and it has its nice little faults, like the chair didn't quite resolve. I'm just going to read you a quote at this point from Hito Steyl, because I think it's interesting. Because in a way, the 360 gives you the total immersive experience that, or the nearest to the immersive experience that you can get without actually going, or without putting on a VR headset. So Hito Steyl says this, and she's talking really about VR headsets, but I think it's still pertinent to this. She states that the 360 degree lens of a sphere, yet at the same time he or she is missing. To be eliminated is to be automated, and conversely, to be automated means to be eliminated. She asks, are you already rehearsing how to be your own ghosts? Which I think is a rather nicely poetic way of asking some quite deep questions about the relationship of the viewer, both to the technology and to what is being looked at. And I think the other thing that was quite interesting about that, that quote is that it reminded me of Brian Hadokety's critique of how the gallery tries to optimize the way we look at art in his book, Inside the White Cube. And I'm just going to give you a couple of phrases from that. He talks about the ideal of the art gallery being a place that is outside, where the outside world must not come in, where art is free to take on a life of its own, in inverted commas. Unshadowed, white, clean, artificial, the space is devoted to the technology of aesthetics, where artworks appear out of time or be on time. an eternity of display. And I thought there was quite a nice dialogue between those two positions, given that one was the Doherty one was written in the late 70s, I think, where the technology the technology he was referring to was just the purity of the White Cube Gallery and the idealized installation shot that was often perceived to be the kind of ideal, the Platonic ideal of seeing an art exhibition or representing an art exhibition, and the VR experience where you're in the space but you're completely alone, and the human is completely removed in a different way. So, okay, so that's the 360. Let's go back to the main page. So the next one is presentation. And this is essentially the press release read by an automatic computerized voice to a succession of slides. So it's a kind of PowerPoint, appropriation of a PowerPoint delivery. I'll just give you, basically it introduces it with the quote that I've just given you from Hito Still. So you can just hear it again, read by a computer, and then I'll stop it.
Breaking, an online installation by Richard Ducker and Robert Good. According to Hito Style, in the 360-degree lens of VR bubble vision, the viewer is at the center of a sphere, yet at the same time he or she is missing. To be eliminated means to be automated, and conversely, to be automated means to be eliminated. She asks, are you already rehearsing how to be your own ghost? Embedded in this pixelated excess is a shadow economy. Behind the spectacle of the image is a virtual junk space of spam, conspiracy theories, fake news, and surveillance stored in giant server farms.
And it goes on to read the rest of the press release, which, again, you can do whenever you like it. And then we did an interview, which was a curious thing to do because of the COVID situation, we had to do it remotely. So what you get with the interview is Ivor, the gallery owner, in the space on his phone, interviewing Robert and I, who were in our separate homes. And we are disembodied voices answering his or discussing the work to his questions or to his prompts. So I'm just going to play you the first bit of that, which is just Robert speaking, because it feels like it evens up the balance a little bit. So I'm just going to give you the first 2 or 3 minutes of that.
Okay.
So you can hear us?
I can hear you.
Robert?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. Good, I can hear all three of you.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. All right, so Robert and Richard, I'm in the space that you've created. Would you like to start telling me generally about what the project is?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, so Richard and I discovered that we had a shared interest in the online environment and the way in which the online text and social media and content is material. And so that was our shared starting point in wanting to work with that online experience and try to make some work about it. And then, as you say, originally that was going to be as an exhibition in the gallery that people could see physically. And that what's changed about that, of course, now is that people can't see it physically. So we've migrated the content online, but we've also migrated our thinking about the project onto an online experience and taken on board the ideas of mediation through an internet connection as being the way of experiencing the world.
But it's interesting because, you know, you're talking about taking internet text, materializing it, and now here you are, it's materialized, and then you're putting it back on the internet. it's almost a double back on,
Yes.
on what you're doing. So
Yeah.
in fact, Robert, tell me about, because all the walls behind me are covered in text.
So the text is all taken from the Google News feed. I've automated a process whereby I can collect the Google News feed every day, and a lot of the headlines that I collect, they're very quite intimidating. They're always kind of constantly asked how I'm meant to do something with, but it's way too much information. You can't possibly feel in the online environment, I think.
I think so. It's worse than it is. If you start reading it, it's almost panic inducing. I mean, I feel like it's sort of immediately getting you, it gets into a nervous state because you start really sort of worrying.
What the thing to note is that a lot of these are subliminal. Most of the time, we kind of don't even realize that we're being bombarded by this stuff. The thing about making it overt like this, by putting it on the wall, by literally putting it out there, allows us to see it for what it is. And on the one hand, it is anxiety inducing, but on the other hand, I hope that it kind of allows a little bit of a disconnect in the system. We suddenly realize that we're being played and we're being gamed in this way, and it allows you to kind of, okay, I can take a step back from this now.
Okay, so it goes on for, I think, another 10 minutes, that interview, which I won't do now, obviously. Then we have our websites, respectively, and the film is there, which I've already shown. The press release, I think that's just the PDF press release there. This, the Q&A, was a kind of, I felt, or maybe we felt, I don't know, Robert, you can, but anyway, I felt that the press release didn't offer enough substance of thinking behind what we were trying to do. And so some of the stuff that I'm now been talking about, I put into a Q&A where we interviewed ourselves, in effect. So it's a kind of vanity project where you imagine you're kind of being interviewed by somebody important, but we just asked our own questions and tried to give our own answers, and it's in this form of like a teletext printout, so it happens in real time. So I'll just show you the first bit of that, just so you get an idea of how it works. So you get the idea, and it goes on like that. And then there's a PDF of the wall text, but I will show a slide of that because it's so small. Unless you download it, it's too small in here for you to see. So there's a slide of that later on. So I'm just going to try and get back to this. Okay. Let's see if this will go big. I'll say. Okay, so I'm just, bear with me a minute. Okay, so these are the views of from the security cameras that are always live. And this is the daylight mode. So this is what you would see if you were looking in daylight mode. So those are those three. I'm going to do, that's the nighttime version, and that's the text. So I'm just going to leave the text up for a minute or two. And you can sort of, I don't know if that's readable or not, but anyway, you can look at that while I'm just doing the next bit. So this process of mediation is now embedded as subject matter. It generates vectors of perception and engagement that operates at different speeds. All these aspects now constitute the work as it sits between the heat of the present and the slowed down time of looking, of registering. I'm just going to go to the next slide because it's entertaining. This is Bala from 1912. It's Dynamism of a Dog on a Leash. And modernism has always been fascinated by ideas of speed, from futurism to Marshall McLuhan, and more recently, the accelerationism. And in a way, I kind of feel fascinated by that with this exhibition. I think there's a triangulation here between the physical, the process of mediation, and our position as viewer. What is referenced within the installation does not form its representation. The compressed experience of spam and clickbait news that offers a glimpse into the overload of a repressed economy is here arrested and allowed to ferment. It reveals the collapse of privacy, its corollary, the conspiracy theory's paranoid escapism, while positioning the viewer as voyeur. This is the world in which we now find ourselves. Surveillance capitalism, hoovering up our data, while security cameras monitor our every move. There is almost no space, inside or outside, where we are not watched, either to be categorized or criminalized, or shoehorned into algorithms to be coerced. It's hardly surprising that conspiracy theories flourish in such an environment. In an age devoid of trust, they offer certainty. Just in case you want the website, you can jot it down. Visually, the exhibition is a voyeuristic glance into the physical space, but it's a space of absence, unspecified, potential, and menace. The hyperreality of online is flattened, its flattened landscape and compressed time are all inverted. The wall text is static, the room still, the film evolves slowly and is repetitious. A camera view without action becomes almost like a painting, especially when it's kind of low resolution. It's got a sort of impressionistic quality about it. The process of looking is absorbed slowly by comparison to its referent. The difference between the violence of representation and the calm within representation is the act of looking when slowed. That's a quote from Luke Goddard. It aims to articulate a spectacle of fragmentation and disorientation while also refraining from succumbing to that spectacle. It's a process of assimilation. We are left with the banality and boredom of surveillance that is more akin to Bruce Nauman's Studio than to the clickbait of Google News. And I think I've been talking for nearly an hour, so I think I might leave it there. I finished.
So much. I'll just unmute everyone, or allow everyone to unmute themselves so that we can do questions. One sec. Yeah, everyone should be able to unmute yourself. We'll probably go to stop your share and go to gallery view as well. That's all right.
Okay. Whoa, have you done that for me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, right.
Thank you so much, Richard. That was really great to hear more about your projects. Do we have any questions from the audience? We've had Robert promise at least 6.
I think DJ was going to ask something, but he's muted. You're on mute. He's on mute.
You should be able to mute yourself in the corner. Unmute
DJ, unmute yourself.
I'll ask. Yeah, you should be able to.
Hang on,
There we go. There we go.
Great. No, I was going to say I really love the idea that the show actually exists in reality, but the public will never see it. They can only ever see it online. It seems to be a lovely metaphor somehow for the virtual world in a way, that it is there, but it can only ever be seen online.
Well, I think one of the ways I thought about this was it's a kind of an abridged version between two extremes. So it's neither a substitute for an exhibition that you could go and see, in the sense that a lot of galleries put on a show and then they do an online tour.
Exactly.
You know, it's neither that, but nor is it an entirely augmented space. I mean, it's not a computer generated space. It's a real physical environment. So it occurred to me that actually there's a strange hybrid between two ways of thinking about an exhibition, which I do find quite interesting in retrospect, having got there. Yeah,
I just love the idea that it's there for real, but will never be seen, except it just.
Well, especially in the context, DJ, that you were saying beforehand, I really wish I could go and see it. And now,
well, yeah, but no. When Richard said that, when he said that it is there, but the public will never be allowed in, I thought actually that does put a really intriguing spin on it. Yeah, it's fascinating. Like it.
Well, I like the word mediation. It's almost about the bit in the middle. It's almost about the stuff that prevents you from seeing it as it is. I think almost my favourite bit of it is the interview we have with Ivor, who's here, and we should credit him. Actually, I was making a couple of notes, and definitely we should credit Ivor for really supporting us in doing this and getting the cameras together and getting the technology for us to make it this mediated space. But that interview that we saw a bit of, where Ivor was pacing up and down looking at his phone in the space and we were these disembodied voices, it would have been much easier for us to kind of present it as we are all here now on Zoom. We're all familiar with Zoom and we're all just having these little three panes of us, but actually the reality was that Ivor was there on his own, and and we were disembodied voices, and that kind of was also trying to articulate something about the frustrations and the limitations of the distance between what's in the space and what's still there now, and the fact that we are 30, 50 miles away from each other.
Yeah. I also think aesthetically it looks very good. The green AstroTurf, the red, I mean, there are basically three colours, aren't there? There's the red screen, the white text wall, and the bright green AstroTurf, and it actually does look very good.
I think Richard gets the credit for that.
Okay, I'll take it. I grew that turf from seed.
Seed.
Actually, going back to this particular conversation, one of the things that, because I've got friends who do make augmented spaces, and you can actually buy and sow the seeds of plants in a virtual world. So to say that that when I was joking that I grew it from seed is, yeah, of course it's a silly joke, but actually in the virtual world you can actually do that. So there's this strange sort of way in which we're kind of caught in a sort of limbo space, a sort of purgatory with this exhibition between the complete freedom of the virtual world and the authenticity, if you like, for one of the better word, of the real world.
Yeah, yeah.
And I quite like that. There's something clunky and fake about it.
Well, I think that's what's one of the things that's exciting me about this idea that you've got the reality, if you like, and then the virtual thing, and I'm going to think about it. And
well, there's a way. I think what it is it's referencing rather than being, which is not to say that it's better to do that in that particular case. It's just that I think that's where we've ended up and what has been of interest to us. Yeah.
Purgatory is a good word. We talked about the antechamber, that kind of one step removed. And purgatory is kind of one step removed from nirvana, the place you really want to be. And in a way, that's all about what this is. It's never quite what you would hope it would be, but it's the best we've got.
It's life.
Yes.
Did you want to say a few words? I mean, you've been really supportive and really integral to what we've done and helped us out. We've had numerous conversations, and you've always been up for helping us turn it into what it's become. Did you want to say anything?
No, sure, I'll pipe in. I mean,
Hi,
for
Ivor.
me, hi. I've been sort of hiding throughout this, but
I didn't know you were there.
Make an appearance at the end.
No.
Just sort of listening to it, because I think it was sort of really interesting, sort of, because for me, it's been a fascinating process being involved in with the guys building this, and I've kind of been trying to solve the technical challenges that presented to me from day one about their vision of how they want to do this. But it's quite interesting to sort of listen to Richard just sort of put it all together in this presentation. But I think probably the thing that I'd want to pipe in with is what my experience was like when I was doing that interview. Because oddly enough, I mean, you know, it's my space. I'm used to the space, but while I was in there being interviewed, I felt like I was intruding. It felt really strange. I felt like I was somewhere I wasn't meant to be by being there, because it almost feels more natural with the show to look at it from the outside. You know, it's almost like you walk in on set while the camera's rolling. You feel like, oh, wow, I better sort of stand out of the way. That's kind of how it felt for me to be in there while that was happening. I mean, obviously, yeah, been in there before and since, but
well, I think what's interesting is that is the only time there is any human element within the show, as in, you know, as in a representation of a human element, and it really shifts the scale of the exhibition. It suddenly shrinks. It becomes a sort of strange Alice in Wonderland, where you're much bigger than what I imagined you would be in that space. Part of that is to do with camera angles as much as anything else, but it kind of it enhances or underlines the stage set element of what we've done, I think.
Yeah, more than there's the human scale.
At one point, we wanted to get Ivor to be in the space working at the desk, didn't we? We had an image of you working in there, and I'm glad in a way that we didn't, because I think probably that I mean, it would have just been different. It could have been fine. It would just have been very strange. Occasionally, we have gone in for a little bit of maintenance, which probably has been online, but I'm not aware that anybody's seen us.
No, we've been in a few times actually. In the end, we ended up changing all the cameras. So.
You froze, Ivor.
Yep.
They're actually from what you would see if you were to look at it live now, because we literally have had to change some of the equipment in the duration of the show.
But nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Well, someone might have seen it. Who knows? Sorry, I have a little visitor here as well.
Very sweet.
Good.
Hi.
Oh, any last questions?
Yeah. Hi there. Thanks, Richard.
Hello.
That was awesome.
Hey.
That was really, really great. I've got a couple of questions, if you'll indulge me.
Yeah.
So I really liked the referencing of Doherty and Sterl. And what I was wondering, first question, what do you think is the happy medium between the white cube and the eliminated observer? Is there a happy medium?
Well, the eliminated observer is, in the case of Sterl, a product of the technology, the 360 VR bubble. That's what she's referring to there. And with Doherty, it's the product of a construct of how to look at art as defined by the white cube gallery space. So I think in a way they're not that there isn't. It's not that there's a happy medium. I think both of them are simply responding to in different ways the outcome of how we as viewers are forced or coerced to operate or exist through that way of thinking or looking. So I'm not sure it's a moral issue between good and bad or happy and sad. I mean, I don't really think that's kind of a useful way of thinking about it. I think it's more about a critique of a system of looking that's evolved from Doherty into Sterl's way of thinking about things, which is to do with the technology of our time.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. Another thing I was wondering about is conspiracy theories offer such a deep and rich seam of material to mine from. And is there anything that you'd recommend looking at? Any other artworks? Any inspiration?
Oh, artworks or artworks that use conspiracy theories?
Yeah.
Oh. You know, there must be, but my mind has gone completely blank. I mean, most of my kind of influence comes from the cinema rather than art in terms of that particular reference, really. But I'm not claiming, you know, that I've cornered something that hasn't been mined by others. I just can't, off the top of my head, think of another artist right now. But there will be other artists out there, and as soon as this ends, I'm sure they'll come to mind and I can message you.
It does feel like art is a bit, I wouldn't say it's behind the curve, but it's yet to catch up with kind of critiquing fake news and conspiracy theories and some of the concepts of truth. I mean, a lot of artists have worked with kind of ideas of knowledge and language and the frailties of language, but this kind of new kind of almost post-Trump world of nothing can be taken for granted. I still think people are processing, so it may be out there, but if so, it hasn't come to the fore yet. Its time is yet to come. Your opportunity there to be that person.
I guess Doug Aitken's video work would probably be the closest reference I can think of.
Oh, right.
We're critiquing more critiquing kind of social media use and kind of knowledge around that and what happened at the time when the first mobile phone was invented. But yeah, I don't know if it's not really conspiracy theories, but yeah, maybe of use. And there's another Mark Trade as well, another video artist who definitely critiques the kind of narcissism that comes out of increasing social media use and the way that we kind of put on an act in certain online spaces, but again, not so much to do with conspiracy theories. But
yeah, I think there's been quite a lot of work covered on how we see ourselves through social media. That's but the actual specifics of conspiracy theories, it's quite hard to think of any. But I know Karen David's been doing stuff with oh God, I've forgotten the name of the X-Files. I know that's been of interest to her, and Roswell as well has been of interest to her. But they're sort of not really conspiracy theories well, I suppose X-Files were actually, but they were playing on it, weren't they? It's a strange one because you'd have thought, I mean, it's such a rich area for material. You'd have thought there would be a lot of people out there using it.
But sometimes I think it almost takes a little while to kind of process. Like, I'm sure there's work about COVID and stuff at the moment, but really there's not enough distance yet to kind of get a sense of what you really want to say or how you want to kind of respond to it, maybe.
Well, yeah. I think the likes of David Icke have been around for a very long time. So I guess they've just never been taken, I hate to say this, seriously until now.
Yeah, I think that's what's different. That's what's different. Now it's, you know, it's out there, literally.
I was just thinking that rather than an artist, but a sort of genre would be memes about conspiracies. There's enough of those around. Don't know if anyone's ever collected them all. And they often start them going, let alone, you know, they're sort of perpetual.
No, I think that's true. And I think one of the things about where maybe conspiracy theory and memes have been absorbed into a language that's kind of runs parallel to art in many ways, is game theory, or not game theory, but games, online games. And there has been certain crossovers of that into art. So maybe through that, there's a sort of relationship.
Well, and also the definition of kind of what's art and creative, and memes are often extremely creative and extremely critical or critiquing. They're often up with the pace in a way that maybe this is suggesting that art and artists are kind of, losing that cutting edge. Maybe the conversation has moved kind of to the meme culture and the chat rooms as the way of the kind of more instant suggest something about those relative kind of creative worlds, maybe.
Kind of interesting how that was just sort of distilled into like one image, usually text there. That tells you everything you need to know about. And then sometimes the text changes and it completely changes the meaning of the image or whatever.
Did you say you're collecting them, Kirsty?
No, I was wondering if anyone does collect them all.
They ought to, yeah.
They just come at you and
yeah. Well, the history of the meme,
again.
the history of the meme would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because but the frog for the old Trump before Trump started going.
Actually, did you know that, Kirsty? You know that what was the frog called?
Pepe.
Pepe the Frog. Yeah, there was a really interesting. I think I'm trying to remember which TV. It was BBC's story. The stories programs. It's a series they run, and they did one on Pepe the Frog, and it is absolutely fascinating how it starts out as this sort of rather hippie, kind of laid back, druggy kind of frog which is kind of got a bit miserable because it's stoned all the time, and then is adopted by the alt-right and turned into this alt-right meme against, and then again is adopted by the resistance movement in Hong Kong. So it's got this extraordinary journey that is completely out of control of the author. And I think that's a really good example of how a meme kind of becomes sort of independent in a way. And also how it's also adopted, appropriated, and kind of polluted by various invested.
So how the discourse has bypassed the gallery. It's now going direct to kind of chat rooms and memes and instant material that's flowing across the internet. It doesn't need a gallery anymore in order to make points, creatively critique things and so on.
Yeah, I think there's a issue with art sometimes being a bit behind the curve on some of these things, but at the same time it needs that kind of space in which to distill
I agree.
What's important about it and what's critical about it, and what to take out from it to make something self-reflective, really. Otherwise it just becomes another version of the meme, and that doesn't tell you anything. So I think in a way, it's not surprising there's a delay with art in that regard.
Just something completely out of the box. I came across for the first time just a day or two ago an album from a man called I Like Trains. And if anyone's come across it, well, have a look.
Okay.
Because it's clips from news and it's text on it and very sort of monotone voiceover type with music. But I mean, it is about some of the propaganda and news and things like that, and an interpretation, a critique of it.
When it was made?
I think fairly recent, because there was Dominic Cummings sitting in the garden of Number 10 as one of the shots,
Right, okay.
with text and repetitive talking. So you've got text, images, distortion of the images, but it's obviously put out to be, you know, in the music market. So he's called I Like Trains.
I Like Trains. That's the name of the person?
The performer. I'm not really even sure what to say, band or individual. It's completely brand new. I came across a review, saw the name, thought that's funny. My husband's a train spotter, that's funny. So I just clicked on it, and it was just, you know, it's worth a look.
Yeah, I'll check it out. That's interesting. Yeah, I think you know, in a way, when you do a project like this, you are inevitably putting the position or positioning yourself in a kind of matrix of reference points that is essentially as much outside the gallery space as it is inside. And I think you know, you end up having references like the one you've just made, which makes it for a really interesting discourse, I think. Hopefully, anyway.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Any last questions? Is that a good place to?
You never asked anything, Susie.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I've got quite a few questions, but I'll have got some written down, and I've put a few things in the chat. There's definitely a book you should
check out.
Yeah, the Book of Only Questions. It's a really good. I often use it when I'm teaching. It's really great.
Okay.
Oh, is that the novel? Just very briefly, has anybody read that? There's a book, a novel, and every sentence in the novel is a question, and it is mind-blowingly brilliant. Well, I thought, my friend Jane read it, and she got to about page 20 and she gave up with it. You've got to stick with it, and you've got to like words, but it's not like Oulipo. It's not a kind of just a tricksy thing. I found it brilliant. Anyway, there we go. Sorry.
No. Is it that book, Susie?
It's called.
No, I don't think it is. I think
it's not. It's not that book.
No, I don't think it's the same one. And the thing is, anyway, and on the last page, it suddenly all makes.
Don't give away the ending, Robert.
No, I won't. I'm just saying. Suddenly, it falls into place. You know, you think this is just going nowhere, and no, I thought it was brilliant. Anyway,
okay. Write it up.
Yeah, I'll try and dig it out, but it'll be after this. I don't know where I post it, but anyway, yeah. Claire and Louise Wilson, Wyson or Wilson. I'm gonna write it down anyway. Kirsty's just.
They're the video artists, Kirsty. Yeah. Okay.
Know them. I'll save my question for in the pub sometime because it's a long one. So, or I'm not even sure it has an answer. So I'm gonna save it for when I see you in person, if that's okay.
Sadly, given the current circumstances, that could be a while.
I don't know, maybe, but it's more around what you were talking about at the start about subject matter finding you rather than you finding it. So I'm not sure if there's an actual answer, but
no, I'm not sure there's an answer to that. I just thought it was a way of introducing the topic.
I think it's quite an interesting proposition of like how do you source that subject matter, or how do you but yeah, anyway, it's one for a pint, I think.
Okay, I shall look forward.
Thank you so much, Richard, for giving us this
more than welcome
today, and we do this every time. If everyone could just unmute and give Richard a big round of applause.
Yeah, it was very good, really good.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And hopefully